She was drifting in and out of sleep in row 22, the hum of the plane and the gentle rocking of the cabin lulling her into a quiet, almost peaceful nap. Around her, passengers were buried in books, phones, and movies, oblivious to the ordinary rhythm of air travel, or so it seemed. But then, a voice cut through the cabin, sharp and serious, stopping her mid-dream. "Is there a Delta Force sniper aboard?" The words echoed over the intercom, and suddenly, the air that had felt safe and ordinary moments ago turned tense, charged with a mix of confusion and fear. Her eyes snapped open, heart pounding. Passengers whispered and craned their necks, searching for answers that weren't coming. Who was the pilot talking to? Was this some kind of joke or something far more serious? She clutched her seat, noticing the subtle reactions around her. A man gripping the armrest too tightly. A child staring wide-eyed at a stranger's face. A flight attendant exchanging a hurried glance with a colleague. In that instant, the plane transformed from a routine journey into a story she would never forget. The hum of engines was no longer comforting. It felt like the backdrop to something dangerous, something hidden. And as the plane continued slicing through the clouds, she realized that what started as an ordinary flight could turn into an extraordinary, life-altering moment. Little did she know, row 22 would become the center of attention, for reasons she could never have imagined. On the truth waiting to unfold was far more shocking than anyone aboard could predict. She glanced around again, trying to make sense of the sudden tension. The passengers were a mix of confusion and quiet panic, some whispering to one another, others staring blankly ahead. She couldn't help but wonder why a Delta Force sniper would even be relevant on a commercial flight. What could possibly be happening at 30,000 feet? As the plane leveled out, she remembered why she was on this flight in the first place. A routine business trip, nothing out of the ordinary. Yet now, every small detail, the way the crew moved, the subtle glances exchanged, felt like part of a carefully choreographed puzzle. Row 22, where she had chosen her seat purely out of habit, suddenly seemed like the epicenter of something far larger. The flight attendants moved calmly but efficiently, their smiles slightly strained. One of them passed by and muttered something under her breath. Too quiet for anyone else to catch, but it was enough to make her stomach twist with unease. She thought about the pilot's words again. Was this a threat? A drill? Or had she unknowingly boarded a flight tied to something secret, something dangerous? She tried to focus on the passengers near her. A man across the aisle kept checking his watch and scanning the cabin like he expected something to happen any second. A young woman clutched her laptop bag tightly, almost as if it contained more than just electronics. And then there was the silence from row 22, itself an emptiness that felt deliberate, almost like it was waiting for someone to arrive. Every instinct told her this was no ordinary flight, and as the plane continued through the clouds, she realized that whatever was coming, she was already part of it, whether she wanted to be or not. Her mind raced as the plane continued its steady hum, but something about the cabin felt off. The man across the aisle was now fidgeting with his jacket zipper, eyes darting toward the overhead compartments as if expecting someone or something to appear. The young woman with the laptop bag was now whispering into her phone, glancing around nervously, clearly trying not to be overheard. Every small movement seemed magnified in the tense atmosphere. Each passenger, a potential clue or threat in this unfolding mystery. She remembered the pilot's announcement again. Is there a Delta Force sniper aboard? The words didn't make sense at first, but now they haunted her. Why would a sniper be relevant on a commercial flight unless there was a threat that no one outside the cockpit was aware of? She glanced toward the cockpit door, noticing the subtle tension in the flight attendants' posture, hands lightly gripping their belts, shoulders tight. It was the kind of anxiety that wasn't performed, the kind that seeped into the air and made her stomach twist. Her thoughts kept circling back to row 22. It wasn't just her seat, seemed almost symbolic, as if the universe had positioned her right in the middle of the action. But she wasn't the only one paying attention. A man several rows ahead kept scribbling notes in a small notebook, glancing over his shoulder like he was tracking the same mystery she was. And in the row behind, a teenager clutched his headphones but wasn't listening to music. His eyes were scanning, alert, calculating. The flight felt stretched in time, each minute heavy with anticipation. Every subtle movement, every whispered word, seemed like part of a larger story that no one was willing to explain. And as clouds streaked past the window, she realized the conflict wasn't just about a sniper. A flight, or row 22 IT, was about survival, secrecy, and discovering what nobody wanted her to see. The answers were out there somewhere, but getting them would come at a cost. The plane jolted slightly, a turbulence that seemed ordinary at first. But it felt different this time, sharper, almost like a warning. Passengers shifted uncomfortably, some gripping their armrests, others staring blankly ahead. She kept her eyes on row 22, heart racing. Something was about to happen. She could feel it in the air, in the way the cabin had grown thick with tension. Every glance, every whisper, every small movement seemed loaded with meaning. The man across the aisle had stopped fidgeting and was now scanning the cabin with a calm precision that unnerved her. The young woman with the laptop bag had tucked it under her seat, as if hiding something, and was now whispering into her sleeve, eyes darting nervously toward the flight attendants. Even the flight attendants themselves moved slower, their smiles gone. replaced by tight expressions that didn't reach their eyes. Then the intercom buzzed again, the pilot's voice low and urgent this time. Remain calm, but be prepared. We may have a situation aboard. The cabin fell silent. The ordinary hum of conversation replaced by a heavy, anticipatory quiet. She could hear her own heartbeat pounding, louder than the engines. Passengers were shifting in their seats, exchanging worried glances. Yet no one seemed to know what to do. Her gaze flicked back to row 22 once more. It was empty, or at least it appeared to be, but something told her that the real story, the real danger, was right there, waiting. The sense of being watched prickled at her skin, a silent warning she couldn't ignore. Every instinct screamed that whatever was coming, it was fast approaching. And as the plane continued through the clouds, she realized the moment of truth was almost here, an intense confrontation that could change everything. But the outcome remained shrouded in uncertainty. Just as she thought the tension couldn't get any thicker, a sharp knock came from the cockpit door, echoing through the hushed cabin. The pilot's voice came again, strained and clipped. We have a confirmed sighting. Someone aboard is armed. Everyone remain in your seats. A ripple of fear passed through the passengers. The man across the aisle stiffened. The young woman with the laptop bag froze mid-whisper, and even the flight attendants looked momentarily shaken. She gripped the armrests, heart hammering, realizing that whatever was about to happen wasn't a drill, it was real. And it was close. Then came the unexpected. A passenger several rows behind her stood up suddenly, hands raised, and spoke loudly, almost defiantly. I think you mean me. I have clearance. The cabin went still. Everyone's attention snapped toward him. She felt her stomach drop. Clearance? Armed? Sniper? Her mind raced to connect the dots, but the pieces weren't fitting, at least. Not yet. Suddenly, the teenager behind her leaned forward, his expression tense, and whispered under his breath, "This isn't what it looks like. Something bigger is happening." She tried to focus on him, but before she could respond, the man with clearance pulled something from his bag. A small device glowing ominously, and everyone instinctively leaned back, some gasping. The plane felt like it had shrunk, the walls closing in with a weight of secrets and danger. Row 22. Her row seemed to pulse with importance now more than ever. Whatever was about to happen would shake the cabin, reveal hidden motives, and push everyone into a confrontation they weren't prepared for. The stakes had just risen, and the flight that started as routine was careening toward a moment of chaos no one could have predicted. The cabin erupted in controlled chaos as the man with clearance pressed the glowing device. Alarms sounded, and a low mechanical hum vibrated through the plane. Passengers ducked instinctively, but she stayed frozen in her seat, eyes locked on row 22. That's when the teenager behind her sprang into action. Reaching for a small metallic case he had concealed in his backpack, in a blur, he activated it, sending a pulse that silenced the device and stopped the hum. The man with clearance froze, confusion and panic crossing his face. The pilot's voice came over the intercom again, calm but firm this time. Security protocol engaged. Threat neutralized. Remain seated. Relief swept through the cabin, though everyone was still shaking. She finally noticed movement in row 22. A Delta Force operative, hidden in plain sight, had been observing everything the whole time. The pilot's earlier question wasn't a warning, it was a signal to the operative, who now stepped forward. Assessing the passengers and ensuring no danger remained, the flight attendants quickly moved to restore order, and the tension that had gripped every person aboard slowly began to ease. Passengers whispered in awe and disbelief, realizing just how close they had been to a disaster. She slumped in her seat, heart still racing, as the operative gave her a brief nod, a silent acknowledgement that she had unwittingly been part of a high-stakes operation. Just as she thought the nightmare was over, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Not everyone made it out unnoticed. Watch your row. Her stomach dropped. Row 22 had been quiet for so long, but now she realized the story wasn't fully over. Even in the calm after the storm, danger still lingered, and the mystery of the flight had left one final, chilling question unanswered. The plane finally touched down, wheels kissing the runway with a quiet finality that contrasted sharply with the chaos that had unfolded in the air. Passengers exhaled collectively, some leaning back in their seats, others gripping their bags as if afraid to let go. She stayed in row 22 a moment longer, reflecting on everything that had happened, the pilot's mysterious question, the sudden threat, and the secret operative who had been watching it all unfold. What had seemed like a normal flight had turned into a test of courage, patience, and awareness.